All right, what's going on, guys? So I just wanted to take advantage of some windshield time and talk about a few things that, a few ways that I run my business here at Bobcat. So today I am actually on my way to do a couple estimates. So I don't always physically go to the property. A lot of times I can just go by pictures or videos or maybe an aerial shot. And get a good idea of what I'm dealing with. But a few of these projects here today, we've got some fence issues. I just need to make sure that I can work around that. And we've also got some terrain issues. I'm headed to Kings Mountain today, and there's a lot of potential for a lot of steep grades and stuff like that. Steep grades in and of themselves aren't a huge issue, but I just need to make sure that my equipment is safe, right? I don't want to agree to something that I just can't do or don't feel comfortable doing. I don't have to take every single job. That's not how a good business is run. You need to kind of pick and choose and make sure that you're able to do things that are within your equipment capabilities and also your talent capabilities. So my equipment can handle pretty decent grades, pretty decent slopes, but there's bigger equipment that could probably do it better. Of course, that's going to be more expensive. So the client just has to make a choice of, what exactly they want and how much they're willing to spend. And part of what I'm doing today is I'm going to go and talk with these clients and just make sure. One of them I've already committed to. It's actually kind of there's actually a third one that I'm going to be going to. I'm not really doing the estimate. I've got a good idea of what kind of equipment I'm going to need to bring, my bucket, possibly my grapple. But I just need to know if I'm going to have to be coming back with my dump trailer to haul stuff off. But I think it's kind of in a neighborhood, and I think there's an issue if I'm running my tracks back and forth to load the dump trailer. That could present an issue that I need to deal with. Laying something down to protect his yard and sidewalk, things like that. But that's what I'm going to go take a look at. So one of the things that I've learned in this line of work is, pricing in general is pretty standard. We have a general, in the area that I live in, it's not the most affluent area, so I have to kind of be aware of that so that I'm not. If I was living in a different area of the country, I could probably charge more for the same type of work. But you have to know your area. Being aware of your area and what your potential clients are capable of will be the determining factor in the success of your business, or of the success of your business. It's really important that you know what you're dealing with. So what I've learned is that there's little pockets of areas that I could potentially charge more in, but I've just kind of taken a really good average daily rate, and I just apply that to, it doesn't matter if in a poorer area or a wealthier area. I just have a standard rate. I do half day and full day. And then if my equipment can stay on the property, if it's a couple day project and my equipment can stay and I don't have to transport it back and forth and it's pretty safe, then I do a little bit of discount as well for multiple day projects. But whether I'm in the tractor or out of the tractor, whatever it takes to get the job done, my rate stays the same. And like I said, there's different rates for different areas. I think I've heard that kind of the national average for forestry mulching is about $2,500 an acre. I'm a little bit less than that. When I'm in the mountains, I charge a little bit more but down in my area, about a 2-hour radius from my home location, I can stay considerably less than that $2,500. So, half day rates are a little bit more than half of a full day rate. I can get quite a bit done in 4 hours and get quite a bit done in 8 hours. You just have to know. You just have to know what you're capable of doing. And so whenever you go to a job to give an estimate, experience is the only way that you can be comfortable in letting the client know about how much it would cost. Now, you're always going to be a little bit, it's going to take a little bit longer, a little bit less. There's always going to be little things that are just going to go super smooth, and then there's going to be days where you have hydraulic leaks, or there's other things. There's all kinds of stuff that happens. So you just have to be aware of that. Keeping your equipment, in good service really helps. Sharp knives, fueling up at the proper places, keeping your machine greased up and clean, all that kind of stuff really helps. And then learning what things to have on hand: air filters, belts. There's just different little pieces and parts that you can have on hand that can help facilitate a job running a little bit smoother. So, and those are just things that you learn as you go. I really enjoy forestry mulching. I love the quick before and after. You get to see a good finish at the end of a day. Quite a bit can be accomplished in one day. And I think whenever clients first hear the price, they're a little taken back because they think it's going to take forever. But depending on what you're working with, you can get quite a bit done in one day. It's it's pretty amazing. And then there's also one of the other factors is, like, does the client want it to be just kind of rough mulched, or do they want it fine mulched? Do they want the mulch hauled off? There's a lot of factors. So sometimes the clients don't even know what they want. They have an idea of what they want, but maybe they've heard things, they've talked with friends, maybe they've heard wrong things. And so part of our job is to educate the client. And that's another valuable thing of actually going and meeting a potential client in person with these estimates. Now these estimates, they're free estimates, so you're really taking a risk. I'm taking a risk to go and give up some of my time, some of my fuel, to go and potentially walk around with a tire kicker. But that's just part of the game. I've talked to so many people that really prefer to in person go over what needs to be done, and there's another mulcher, rather than just going by a text, and a lot of times that is required. It's better for me if I actually go in person. But like I said at the beginning, there's just some jobs where it's obvious that, just a picture or a video, and I can tell you exactly, I know the area, I know exactly what I'm going to be dealing with. And so unless it's a deal breaker, there's really no reason for me to come in person. Jobs that are 2 or 3 hours away, I take a little more risk. I would rather get a good idea of what I'm going to be dealing with through pictures and videos, if possible, and then take the risk of hauling my equipment there and course correcting at that point, rather than taking a full day for one estimate. 6 hours for one estimate is just a little much, unless you can line up several estimates in one day, which is what I'm doing today. I've got 2 estimates and then one job I'm going to swing by just to make sure, like I said, that I have the right equipment for next Monday. But you know, I've got about 3 hours of driving today, but each of these locations is literally just an hour from my home. But they're, you know, 45 minutes to an hour apart from each other. So it won't be too bad. This is kind of how I line up my week. I have a day of kind of like heavy maintenance. I've got a day or two of estimates usually. I kind of daily put out material on Instagram and Facebook, and maybe once a week YouTube. You know, so another benefit of the estimates is that I can actually kind of talk through and make some more content on the process, you know, how this all works. So anyway, probably enough rambling. I just wanted to share the importance of doing in-person estimates with clients. If at all possible, it really is a good way to do your business. So many clients are just frustrated with people that either don't want to do estimates, they're especially frustrated with people that don't show up. So it's pretty easy to stand out in the contractor industry. In fact, one of the reasons I started what I'm doing as a business is because it's so difficult to get anyone, especially in my area, to actually follow through and show up. It's so challenging. I mean, I can't start every business, but there's a lot of businesses that I could probably do really well at. Hauling is one of them. Hauling dirt, hauling gravel, especially if you had you kind of did it as a niche, I guess, niche, whatever. Small projects. A lot of what I'm finding is a lot of these smaller projects, even in forestry mulching, no one really wants the small projects. A lot of contractors like to go and be at a place. They like to drop their equipment off and be at a place for a long period of time. I get that. I personally don't like that. I like to be in and out in a day, half day. Those are the projects I like. So it really works out well because a lot of contractors don't want the quick stuff. They want the longer stuff, so they don't have to haul their equipment around everywhere, which I get. But as far as the hauling goes, what I'm finding is that a lot of the delivery hauling services, they don't want the 1 and 2 load jobs. They want jobs that I guess they can, spend the whole day doing 10 loads or whatever their guy can do in a day. I have no idea. They just don't want the small stuff. It's crazy. No one wants small tree work. In fact, this is a good example. I had somebody reach out to me about stump grinding, which I do. I would prefer to do, 10, 20 stumps in a day. But I had a guy that reached out and he just has 1 stump that needs to be done. I can do just 1 stump and I'm more than willing to do it. But I have to charge, accordingly, and it's quite expensive. You could probably get 2 or 3 stumps done for the same cost as just 1 stump, but I have to, accommodate or have to account for my time, and in the case of stump grinding, I actually rent the equipment. I don't own a stump grinder. I may in the future get one, but as of right now, I don't. So if you just want 1 stump done, I can do it. I can get it knocked out. I can even bring my skid steer in a bucket and smooth everything out, get it all nice. If it's a small enough stump, I can actually do it with my mulcher. but that's just the cost of it. But my point is that a lot of contractors, they're like, nah, I won't even do it, because they're afraid to charge more for it, or whatever the situation is. I don't mind doing it. I'll spend a day and go do one stump, and a half day or whatever, and as long as the customer's willing to pay for that. In some cases, I'll even ask the customer, like, are you capable of doing this yourself? Like, you can rent a stump grinder. Like, it's not difficult, but a lot of clients don't want to do that. So anyway, I got about another 30 minutes before I get to this client's place up here in the mountains. He says it's a little steep. He's actually already been clearing some of the stuff himself, and on this first estimate, he said that he bought a skid steer and it wasn't big enough. So I don't know what that means. It's hard to know. Could have bought a little tiny thing, could have bought a wheeled one versus, a skid steer versus a track loader. He could just not know what he's doing. I have no idea what I'm, going to get into, but I had the opportunity today to just go meet up with them. So that's what I'm going to do. It's a beautiful day here in South North Carolina. I love this Kings Mountain area. It's really pretty, but it's pretty hilly too, so I got to be aware of that. It's probably nothing like up in the Appalachian Mountains up in Boone, so shouldn't be too big of an issue, but I just want to confirm that before I tell the guy that I can do it. And then plus I can, put my eyes on the ground and on the project and actually see, get a better view, a better idea of how long it's going to take me, and then he can make a decision from there. So just communicate with your clients at the very, minimum. If you can't do a project or don't want to do a project, just let them know. Just tell them, just communicate with them, tell them what's going on. That way, because they're just kind of left with feeling helpless, and that's not good. I know from any time that I've ever been in a situation of being a client, I'm trusting a lot, and when that trust is broken, it's really frustrating, but there's a lot of opportunity for all sorts of business. Customer service goes a long way. It's really important. So just keep that in mind. In-person estimates, pretty important as well. But all right, that's enough for today. I will probably do another video after some of these estimates today, kind of give an idea of what I was dealing with, how it went. I may even take some footage of the actual properties themselves. All right, so just leaving the first estimate. Should have took the camera out there and gave a good visual of what I was dealing with, but I had to say no to this one. There was a combination. There's three things that, well, there's probably more than that, but there's three main things that I look for as obstacles, or look out for as obstacles. A lot of rocks is number one. Really steep grades is number two, and really hilly, like a lot of ditches, a lot of change in the grade, really quick. Those are the three things. And then sometimes, I don't really deal with this a lot, but wetness, like wet ground is another thing that can be an obstacle, because I'm 14,000 pounds whenever I'm all said and done. So any one of those things on a job is not a deal breaker. I can work around rocks. If the grade is really steep, but it's fairly smooth and there's not a lot of rocks, I can work around that, and then you get the point. But this property had all three, potentially all four. It actually ended at the bottom of the hill, and it was probably 10 to 12% grade. That's pretty steep. and it had a lot of fallen trees. We just had a big hurricane that came through maybe a year or so ago, Helene, in this area, and there were huge pine trees, which probably would have been fine. You know, they're going to decompose or start to rot pretty quick. But there were big oaks on this grade. You know, it's just too much. But at the bottom of the property was a creek, and the edge of that creek was super wet. So, you know, it probably would have been, you know, not wet enough to sink or to get stuck. You know, we haven't had a lot of rain lately in this area. They've had a little bit more than where I'm at. But anyway, I just had to tell the guy, you know, his best bet's going to be to either hire somebody with a bulldozer, pile stuff up, and maybe burn, or hire somebody that's willing to come in and work for, you know, pay him like 50, 60 bucks an hour, maybe not even that much, to just manually start cutting and hauling stuff off. You know, pay somebody and he'll be able to get, you know, 5 times the amount of hours in for the same price as me. So, of course, it won't be mulched, but if you could find somebody, which I get it, it's hard, it's tough these days to find somebody that's actually willing to work. But, you know, I remember whenever I was, you know, late teens, early 20s, I might not have been, you know, obviously I didn't have the same skills that I do now, but I was willing to learn and do hard work. And I remember picking up rocks for people, or, you know, doing a bunch of manual labor for, you know, in the 80s, 90s, a decent wage. So that one's going to be a no. He had actually bought a little skid steer, a wheeled skid steer, just had a bucket, just a smooth bucket, to try and cut stuff up. And the other obstacle that was on this property, which again, I can work around this, it had been, you know, it was kind of the side of a hill, and this is what people do, maybe all over, but definitely around here, is they think, oh, that makes a good dump. And so they just start, you know, throwing their trash out there. And so there was an old boat, there was, you know, shoes and glass, and I didn't see a lot of metal, which is usually more common. It's more common for people to throw metal down there in their trash piles, but this was just like random trash. It's just too many obstacles. It's just not worth it. It's not worth my equipment being damaged just to get another day of work. So told the guy no, and he understood. You know, I think he would appreciate it that I at least came out. And this is a good example of why it's good to physically put your feet and eyes on the property, on the projects, so you don't get into something that you can't do or that damages your equipment, because you go ahead and try to do it anyway to try to, I don't know, out of pride or save face or whatever. You know, this is a good example of why it's important to physically go to a place if you can. It's not always possible, and like I said, you know, a lot of times you can get a really good idea just from a picture, or a video. But he said something about it being kind of steep, and so I just really wanted to check that out. And I also saw in the pictures that he sent a lot of little rock, and that's just, you know, underneath the surface. What you'll see in a lot of these places in the Carolinas, in the foothills, is there's a lot of little rock under the ground. And if you're just pushing stuff around with a dozer or a bucket, that's not a huge issue. But if you're trying to grind stuff up with the mulcher, it's a big issue. Like, this stuff will destroy knives. It'll wear carbides down as well. There's not a lot of sand up here, so carbides do last a little bit longer, but the rocks, it's just, and it's the tough rock. It's not if there is a weaker rock, it's not that stuff. This is the tough stuff. So said no to that one. Headed to grab some lunch, and then I'm gonna go take a look at a project that I'm starting next week. Just want to make sure that I have the right equipment, meet up with the client, and go from there. All right, so I'm headed to a second estimate for today. This one is a property, I believe the majority of the work is actually going to be bamboo. I don't think there's much of a slope, but it is within a fenced area, so we got to work around the fence. But the city is on the client to get this taken care of. Apparently it's a pretty big eyesore. I guess it's in city limits or it's a neighborhood or whatever. I don't know what all the story is, but it's actually the son of the property owner is who reached out to me. Apparently the property owner may be a little bit older. So I don't believe they are there right now. So I'm just going to go. He said it was, the boundary is pretty obvious. I'm just going to go and make sure that, just kind of based on what we talked about, I think I told him I think it would take about a half day, but putting my eyes on the property and seeing, little things like rocks, stuff like that, what kind of obstacles I'm dealing with will really help determine whether or not, A, I can do it, B, what the price is going to be. So going to go take a look at it, and then we'll see what we're dealing with. Bamboo is a little bit tricky. If it's smaller bamboo, it'll get chewed up pretty good. Bigger bamboo will as well, but it's really it wants to. It doesn't want to chip very well. It wants to shred more than chip. So it's going to take a lot of the hope is that the grade is fairly level so that I can do a lot of back and forth. If there's a lot more of an incline, a lot more steep grade, then that presents a little bit of a challenge. It can all be done. It's just a matter of how clean the client actually wants it. So I'll be able to see once I put my eyes on it. But another good reason why it's good to go get in-person estimates taken care of. So I will do a little bit of video of the property, hopefully, and let you know what I decide. All right, so I'm here on this this bamboo job. It's going to be a little. There's a few challenges, but it is. The video is not even going to do it justice, but I'm going to try to walk through here and kind of give you a good idea of what we're dealing with. There's a few obstacles that I've noticed. But this has been, the house has been in the family for about, well, at least 70 years, because the dad that owns it, the grandfather or whatever, he used to play here whenever he was 4 and 5 years old, and he's 74 now. So obviously right up next to the house here, we will be manually doing it, cutting everything out, and then setting it in a spot here and mulching it up. But down here, won't be able to see because of this gimbal, there's a railroad tie wall that is being held up by some T-post. And then we've got a fence on 4 borders. So this is, it looks kind of overwhelming when you're thinking about doing this stuff manually, but whenever you come in here with the mulcher, you really just have to look out for rocks, metal. There's a post here for whatever reason. You've got some hills, you've got some retaining walls. There's actually a building down here. But, the thing that I was trying to let the client know is that this stuff's going to grow back pretty fast, but they are aware of that. So the best way to handle it is going to be, once we get it all down, to come in here with a mower or something like that. Because to try and dig all the roots of this bamboo out is going to be, that's a big task. It could be done, but you're dealing with a neighborhood here, and that's a little more challenging. But not going to walk all the way through here. There is a building back there And then down here's a railroad tie retaining wall. And in between the wall and the building is like metal roofing on the ground. It was probably done originally to probably keep the bamboo from growing around the building. Because I think the grandfather was telling me that his dad used to grow bamboo. They did it on purpose for fishing poles, and they used to sell it and stuff like that. Of course, you know, years later, it's kind of gotten out of hand. So they got a problem now, and the city wants them to get rid of it because it's pretty invasive and it, you know, doesn't really look the best. But at the beginning of the property, or at the beginning of this bamboo area, there's a fence, chain link fence that's going to have to come down. So that's going to be a bit of a project. There's also a big concrete slab that it looks like the area AC unit used to sit on. So we're going to need to get that moved up so that we can come in here and get this down real good. So yeah, I'm thinking at least a day here, just because of all the little obstacles. If it was just a big flat section, you know, probably wouldn't be such a big deal, but because we're dealing with all the various obstacles, anytime I got to get out of the tractor, deal with, you know, trash, fences, cinder blocks, rocks, walls, anything like that, then you know, that really presents a problem. So it's doable, but it's definitely going to be a project. So I'll be putting the rest of the video together whenever I get on site. So we're going to arrange a time, get this taken care of. So I'm here on an estimate. This is one of those examples where another example of why it's important to show up if you can in person. The client can only share so much information to give you a good idea of what's going on, and then you're just kind of taking a risk of you know, what the job actually is. But in this situation, the client had some trees removed from their backyard here, and they had a section of the fence brought down, and the adjoining neighbor's property, the owner had agreed to put all of the trees and canopies and all the stuff back here. That had been agreed upon, and then once it was done, the owner of the other property kind of changed their mind. So this client reached out to me asking if I could come solve this issue for him, and you know, I was pretty confident that I would be able to do it based on the pictures that I saw and based on, you know, just seeing the circumstance. However, we're left with a few obstacles here. For one, there's really no in and out of the property. It's in a neighborhood with probably 2 or 3 acre lots, and he's got a swimming pool, septic tank, and the grass. You know, grass is repairable, but the concrete around the pool, there's basically only like a 75-inch path between the house and the concrete to the pool. So the concrete's definitely going to be driven on. Then you're dealing with grades and stuff like that in order to get like a dump trailer in here or some way to haul off the stuff. In the pictures, the 11 oak trees that were taken down looked large, but they didn't look this large. And I'll show you what I'm dealing with here. I want to say that although the tree guy did essentially what the client asked him to do by, you know, putting it in the agreed location behind his property on the neighbor's property, they did it very sloppy. So do good work. Even if you're just piling stuff, do good work. But so this is anyway, you can't really see it. Let me turn this around. This thing is massive. So it comes up to my waist. That's just one of them. There's several of those. Plus, you know, a big pile, big messes back in here. The best thing I could do is come in here with my track loader and a grapple, and then bring everything back to the neighbor's property where he had them all removed, unfortunately, and then they could possibly put up a privacy fence. But, you know, there's really no good solution, including legal means. You know, this client does have proof of the conversation that said, you know, it was okay to do this. But I'm guessing that because it was so sloppy, that maybe the landowner changed his tune. Although this isn't a part of the property that no one really uses, but I get it. It's his property. So anyway, I don't know what the final outcome is going to be, but you know, there's quite a bit of a mess here, and you know, I kind of feel for this guy. He's was told one thing, and then the story was changed, and now he's got to deal with this. You know, this is let me turn this around. Trying to zoom in. I don't know why it won't. Anyway, this is a big mess. You know, these are big piles of stuff. I don't know if you can see, but this is taller than me. A lot of end cuts, canopy cuts, big limbs, all this stuff was just pushed and piled back in here. And really kind of no order whatsoever, you know, so that's just how it is. But outside of me coming in here and spending 2 or 3 days, you know, with a grapple and then just kind of moving all this stuff back into his yard, there's really no good solution. I don't even think a fire is a good solution, but glad I came to look. This is what you deal with sometimes. But this problem will be overcome at some point, and they'll be able to take care of it. All right, so off to another estimate, one last and final estimate for this video anyway. I got a text last night about a local job. Actually, it looks like they're putting a fence in. They need the fence line cleared, so I'm gonna go. It's only about 25-30 minutes from here. I'm gonna go and take a look at it, give them a quote, and try to get them on the schedule. You know, doing estimates, you got to have a lot of resilience, whatever the word is. Otherwise, you just get defeated. Morning.
What are you doing?
Doing estimates, doing videos.
Yeah.
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 What are you up to?
I'm just passing through. I'm going to Blythewood for Alyssa's horse event thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just headed to Rock Hill. I've got one more estimate today, so and pick up the tractor later. All right. Anyway, so resiliency is really important in life in general. But if you are going to be a self-employed contractor or self-employed of any type, whatever, you have to have resiliency. You know, whenever we first go to do estimates, we think, this is in the bag, no problem, I got it. And it'd be great if that was how it worked, but unfortunately, you know, there's a process, and the process involves no's as well as yeses. So yesterday I did about 3.5-4 hours of driving. Spent about an hour total probably at each job. There was 3 of them, and I probably potentially landed the one that I talked about where the tree guys had piled stuff up, but I'm going to do something a little bit different. I feel like I can attack it in a little bit different way. And then possibly the bamboo job. The other job, it wasn't a matter of yes or no for them. It was a matter of, I just don't think it's something that I don't think it's going to be good for my equipment, so I passed on that one. And I was trying to pass on the one with, you know, all the tree debris on the neighbor's property, But it looked like the guy was in a bind, so I can, what's the word? I can regroup, change gears and get a little bit out of my norm and go in there with the grapple, stack things, chainsaw, stuff like that, and then maybe mulch a little bit at the top. But just to get the guy, because he's in a bind, and I told him that if no one else, which he's already tried to get several people and no one else is even willing to come. It's kind of one of those weird jobs that no one takes. So I'm willing to do the weird stuff that no one else is willing to do. In fact, it's funny, years ago, 25 years ago to be exact, when I started the lawn care business, and I bought a business that had the guy was giving me clients with the business, and it turns out that he gave me 8 or 9, I think, I don't remember how many it was, of his problem clients. And they were really, all he was doing was selling some old equipment. I mean, I was young, I didn't know. He was selling some old equipment, and he was selling his clients that he didn't want. And so I took him on, and we made the best of it. I was young, I was gung-ho, full of energy, and I was making more on that one day of mowing than I was in the military. And so that was probably the entry to being self-employed. But I've often told my wife, I'm not necessarily wired this way. I just would prefer to be my own boss. I don't like all the other stuff that goes along with being self-employed. I don't know that I guess I'm in the entrepreneurial category, but not because I'm passionate for it. But anyway, headed to another job this morning to give them an estimate on clearing a spot for a fence line. Hopefully it works out. It's a close job. I'm only guessing that it's probably going to be a couple-hour job. Of course, my minimum is a half day, so they'll have to go with that, and it shouldn't be a problem. We shall see. So I'll circle back around once I've completed that estimate. I may even do a little, depending on the circumstance, may even do a little video of the estimate. But yeah. All right, so just wrapped up that estimate, and I will be doing that job. It's a neighborhood job. The people just bought the house a couple months ago, and there's a section, not even a quarter acre in the back, that it's been overgrown, that the people before let overgrow, and so we've got some vines, a lot of little saplings that'll be pretty simple. The obstacle is going to be working around some evergreen trees that they want to keep, and then the property lines are a little funny, so we're going to have to fine tune those. But half day job, shouldn't be 3 or 4 hours, shouldn't be more than that, so not a problem. Fairly level as well. But I think that's another example of it. Would have been pretty difficult for the client to send me pictures and for me to get a good idea of what I was running into. Odds are I would have still said a half day and it would have worked out. It would have been fine. But I did let the client know that, if I get into any obstacles, any unforeseen things, which I can't see, there's only a few rocks, not much trash. There's a few bricks, that were left over from someone else. No real obstacles that I could see right now. But things are revealed whenever you start clearing. So that's something to keep in mind. There's always stuff that comes up. But if you're just transparent and communicate with the client, they're usually pretty understanding. So one of the funny things, you could have charged more whenever the client's like, is that all? Yeah, I mean, I can get quite a bit of stuff done. This particular client has done acres by hand before, and they just have decided that they don't want to do that. So they're gonna be like slapping themselves whenever they see how quickly this machine can can take care of stuff. One of the things we are going to do at the end is he wants all the mulched up stuff, which there won't be a ton, but there'll be a little bit. He wants that piled up so they can use it, for around trees and stuff like that. So anyway, that's kind of how I do estimates. Hope there was some sort of helpful information in here. The main points are, if you can get your eyes on the property physically, that is going to be the best for the relationship with you and the client, and it's gonna give you a better understanding of what you're dealing with, so that you can price it accordingly. And on the ones that you don't, the jobs that you don't get, or the ones that you either can't do, don't want to do, or the client doesn't like your pricing, those aren't a loss. If you have the right mindset, you're going to be learning something no matter what the outcome is. Like, there's always an opportunity to learn. I've fought this idea for a long time. I've always wanted things just to go smooth, or else I consider it a loss. But one thing I've realized in my later years is that everything's an opportunity to grow and learn. So even these jobs that I didn't land, I'm learning something about the area, for one, the areas, because there's so many areas around here that I've never been to. And then I'm also just getting a better idea of how to do estimates, because there's always, little things that you learn from each client, questions they ask, things like that. So keep that in mind when you're doing this. Don't get frustrated. Just enjoy the process, and always be open to change gears as well. There's other opportunities out there. So staying in your niche or whatever is good. It's good to focus and stay focused, but it's also good to be a little bit adaptable. You might learn something else you didn't know. You might learn about something else that you didn't even know you were interested in. So for now, that's it. You guys have a good one. I'm going to go grab a bite to eat, and then off to another driveway grading estimate. That's going to be a new one for me, but you got to start somewhere. So probably going to be renting a Harley rake for now, power rake, and then I need to buy a bucket. I have a bucket, but it's for my tractor, and it's not a good skid steer bucket. I can't see the end of it. It's not long enough. So probably gonna be getting a bucket. But meanwhile, I'm going to be landing a few driveway jobs. This one is actually for a friend, so I'm just gonna have to figure out, if he's going to be a little transparent on what he's paid to have it done before. I don't even really know how to charge for it. That's, it's not as hard on my equipment, but it is using my equipment, so I need to be conscious of that. So anyway, you guys take care. Have a good one. Until next time, this is JD with Bobcat. Have a good one.